Like to call this meeting of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee for September 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. I'd like everybody to stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like everybody to remain standing, please, for a moment of silence. First part, of course, 9/11, as we all remember, probably where we were that day. And also, one of our new teachers, Mrs. Jane Bottomley, we want to do a moment of silence for her husband and her nephew and her brother. They were in the car accident in Falmouth, and he is in critical care. So I want to say an extra moment of silence for them, too. Thank you. Okay, we have no public comment, but approval of meeting minutes, August 21st, please.
Sure, can I make a request?
Yes, you may, Dawn.
Correction? I pulled my copy. Okay, I'm looking at these, looks like the correction.
A couple of corrections I think were
was
made, Dawn.
Okay,
Yes.
and then to the vote, I was also looking at the handbook vote, so it got corrected 4-0.
420, I had noticed that also,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, and then my only other feedback is with the minutes, if there could be consistency around documenting opinions that are given, because I do notice on page 2, this is under handbook approval, so I had given some discussion around my desire to not support the handbook due to the Bell schedule. It didn't make it into the minutes, but some other discussion regarding another member's comments about gender identity did make it into the minutes. So I'm not going to ask for a correction or change to what we're going to vote tonight, but if there can be consistency going forward, if we're mentioning what one member adds as discussion, that all members' comments and feedback.
Right, and it shouldn't be mentioned at all, actually. Minutes just are supposed to say, and actually, we can just say for minutes, just say what was presented and a discussion ensued. That's what the law says. That's all we need to put, and the vote. So I agree with you. It should be consistent, and either everybody gets in, which I don't agree with. I think it just should be basic what went on. So from now on, I agree with you. I think everybody agrees with that.
And I agree that in
Yeah.
terms of,
Yeah.
cost efficiently.
Yeah, let's give
our staff
Jen time too.
It's appreciated, but
Yeah.
let's give you a little break.
So I would make a motion to approve the minutes from August 21st.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All here, so, thank you. 8-0.
I'll grab the next thing. So Student Advisory Council, I put in your packet, Mr. Moriarty and Student Council put out an advertisement to all the class of 25, 26, 27, 28 regarding Student Advisory Council elections, which will take place in a couple weeks. They need to give Dan their letters of interest by September 18th. So by our October meeting, we should have a 5-person Student Advisory Council present to be initiated into our school committee. And then the liaison from this committee will meet with them, and we will have them here every other month for the report.
That's okay with you, Dawn? Could you, the liaison, right?
Did we discuss
I
the
thought-
liaison when we did subcommittees?
Can't hear? Okay. Yeah, I thought you did,
Thought you did.
but maybe we didn't.
John, do you want it?
I thought you had.
I'm sorry.
So, if not, we can have somebody.
If you don't want it. I thought, I agree. Jeff and I were talking, we both thought it was you.
When we get down later on. So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, we'll get to the other one.
Okay.
I have the same as everyone else.
So, on that, let me get to the superintendent's report.
Yes, superintendent's report, but we're going to switch A and B.
We're going to switch A and B, but I also have something to announce. as it pertains to our school committee from the Mass Association of School Committees. I received a letter. I was CC'd on this, but the letter actually went to Don Byers, school committee member. On behalf of the MASC Board of Directors, I am writing to let you know that you have been selected to receive the MASC Division III All-State School Committee 2024 Award. This honor recognizes your contributions to the Whitman-Hanson Public School District, both through your commitment to the role of the school committee and through your advocacy and efforts on behalf of the highest quality educational opportunities for the children of the district. This award will be presented at MASC Leadership Life Member Awards Dinner on Friday, November 8th during the MASC-MASS 2024 Joint Conference. The dinner is held at the Emerald Resort in Hyannis. The board invites you and your designated guest to be our guest at this event. I hope your schedule will permit you to join us on November 8th. Please fill out the enclosed form. So I just wanted to offer public congratulations. We have a member.
Congratulations, Frank. Very nice, very nice.
You're all invited.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up to go. Did you get that? 'Cause I was gonna go before I knew, but now I actually.
You want to be my guest?
Sure.
So congratulations. That's pretty awesome.
And you are going, I saw you were going to be.
I was
Yeah.
going before I even got this
Yeah.
letter this weekend in the mail.
Yeah, very
Thought it
nice.
was junk mail.
Yeah, the usual
get a lot of
MASC
junk,
stuff, yeah.
Who would have found out?
Yeah.
So thank you, Beth, for moving some things around. Nikki's going to present a little bit of a slideshow on what we did this summer. I talked a little bit about our summer programs over the summer. We have a little bit of a slideshow to show you what we actually did. So Nick?
And before Nikki starts, this is in place of having students come live because they just started school. So, you know, we thought this would be nice to see what they did over the summer. Then the next meeting, we will again have students do a presentation as we do every month. Okay.
One thing, just talk to our friends at Cable. For today, we're not really picking up your voices here, so if we could just emote. and be a little
Okay.
louder, that would be great. I don't think I have that problem. But it sounds beautiful when I just check for the cable.
Oh.
So, whatever you do is great. Just maybe a hair louder.
Okay, I have no problem.
I know you have, I remember your voice. Let's say something else. But
We all use our teacher voices.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Even teach teacher was.
So good evening, members of the school committee, members of the public. We wanted to take a moment, Jeff updated last meeting about summer, but we wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to actually see and enjoy some of the experiences our students have. We offer a lot here at Whitman-Hanson, more than many districts, and I think we should be proud of that, and we want to share that with the community. So first, we have our summer enrichment program. This is supported by the 21st Century Grant, the grant that I spoke about actually at last meeting, that's supporting Hanson Middle School. It supports Whitman Middle School, it supports the high school, and it supports a free summer program for our students. This summer, we serviced 141 students in this program for free. They received lunch, they had a field trip, they received academic support. It's fun. I hope the pictures show that. And the students can work on their summer reading. They get support, incoming freshmen get support pre-biology to prepare them for their biology class. They do math, and they have an afternoon of arts and physical education. And it's just an excellent program, and it is very unique to Whitman-Hanson, and it's really well done. And so we wanted to make sure that we highlighted this program that we offer to our students here.
In addition to that, we also offer many sports camps, many sports clinics at both, three spots, at the high school, at Whitman Middle School, and at Hanson Middle School. So this year we had, Hanson Middle School had a 4-week program, Whitman Middle School had a 6-week program, and the high school had 8 weeks of different programs. The high school program is sports specific. So you might have lacrosse, you might have a basketball, you might have a field hockey. Whereas at the middle schools, they have basically come join series of activities. It's 3 hours in the morning, and then they rotate those activities. Now that we have our summer enrichment for rising 6th and 12th graders, for those of you that have been around as either parents, citizens, school committee members, we used to have an academic component at the middle schools, but now with our summer enrichment, we sort of backed off from that, and now it becomes sort of a drop-off sports camp. That's for them.
And just to piggyback, because George commented on the weeks, the summer enrichment, going back to the previous slide, that's 4 weeks of programming as well. So 4 weeks of programming that we offer for rising 6th through 12th. And I wanted to just comment that the 12th grade, we were able to offer paid internships. So our 12th graders supported our middle school students, and we kind of are trying to identify some potential teachers out there. So I just wanted to make sure I also added in that piece, because it's also unique to us here.
And as we say that, because that'll tie into what Jeff's going to talk about for his goals later, we did hire 5 total recent graduates, either just graduated this past May or now are pursuing academics in college for teachers as part of our ESY program as paraprofessionals. So we all know that there's a teacher shortage out there, so we're trying to develop and continue and move forward with a sort of grow your own, and that's what we're moving to. We also had two incoming brand new staff who worked our summer school this year, who have obviously been certified and graduated, but they were able to work our summer enrichment camp also. Science camp. So John Rosen, if we all remember, John Rosen, veteran teacher, been here for years. He was the Dr. McEwen Award winner. He again does his science camp. It is one of the highlights of what students get to take place and do. My own children went, and they're now in their 20s. And John runs 4 weeks of camp. He has a max of students. He can only take 24 students per week, just because of the stuff they blow up and the science experiments and the things that they do. Those students are in 2nd grade through rising 9th graders. He then utilizes his students to help out, be tutors, and to be like teacher aides and teacher helpers during it. But John, again, did 4 weeks of that camp.
We also offered 4 weeks of a robotics camp here at the high school for our rising 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. This program ranged from about 8 to 10 students. Again, they have to cap it because of the materials and what's needed, but offered 4 weeks of it. Those rings that you see, rings, in the middle there, we were able to purchase one for each middle school this year through our 21st Century Grant money. So now we are able to offer in the after-school enrichment program robotics in both middle schools, which will help foster, hopefully, a love for this opportunity in the summer as well. So we can see how they're kind of helping each other in increasing some interest in this activity. Me again. 3D printing camp. We offered 3D printing camp, 2 weeks of 3D printing camp, ages 8 to 14. This was a maximum of 10 students, again, because of the computers. Special shout out to Junior Simonak in there, who helped as a student intern as well, getting some community service hours. But this is another program unique to Whitman-Hanson Regional School District that we are offering to our community and our students. The students made rings and keychains, and they designed them on the computers, and then you can see on the right a student printing out some object that he made. So again, unique to Whitman-Hanson, fostering a love for the STEM field and interest in, hopefully, 3D opportunities when the students come to the high school.
I will also say for the programs that we have at the high school, I think it's important to know that because they have such different age ranges, from small students all the way through high school students, you do get to see during the course of the day, like there are parents saying, you'll come here when it's this time. You know, you get students familiar with what the high school looks like. Get students familiar in the atmosphere that says, I was in preschool here. So it is kind of a galvanizing thing that hopefully keeps our students here and wanting to stay here as they go through their education.
And another one of what you'll see Jeff's goals that we we'll be talking about is this idea of community and bringing together the students of Whitman-Hanson. We know they come here at high school, but it's our goal, and it happens in youth sports, and it's our goal within the district now to foster those opportunities as the students are matriculating K-8 as well. And so these summer opportunities are allowing us to do that at a greater rate and opportunity.
The next one's Camp Conley. Camp Conley's been around for many, many years. It's open to any student in the elementary schools if they choose to go. It is a 3-week session This year, over 150 students participated in grade in either 1 week, 2 weeks, or all 3 weeks. And it's a series of academic reinforcement. It's a series of arts, crafts, fun, non-athletic, and it's a series of athletic or physical education type things also. So that took place.
Summer at Duval, we wanted to make sure we highlighted what happens because what you're seeing then in our 6 buildings, 5 of them are used throughout the summer as well. So just to highlight again, and I know Jeff talked about that at the last meeting, but it's so important to realize that we're keeping our buildings open for our communities. So at Duval, we had space rented by the YMCA, which is a very busy program, but it's a nice way to share space and to have community outreach. And then also our extended school year programs were, for the elementary students, were at Duval this summer.
And I think the only last thing I'd like to share is that Whitman-Hanson also hosted the DARE camp. So the DARE camp is the real big one. It is not necessarily our endeavor. We work with the school resource officers from all over. They bring their students, so students from all over the neighborhood schools. But the DARE program, they do a week here. They have their orientation here with their youth leaders. And it is a really special time, and it's become a huge piece of kids in Whitman-Hanson get to participate, and then kids all over the South Shore get to participate. We had a block that said other. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
One more too, if you go one more slide.
And I probably didn't read the slide.
That's okay. No, I mean, there was nothing on here, except I also wanted to shout out, in addition to DARE, which we talked about, was we offered an extensive amount of ESL tutoring this summer, both virtual and in person, to meet whatever needs. Morning and evening we offered. In person, virtual, and we offered 2 weeks of an adult ESL class for our community members, which we did 9 to 12 here at the high school for 2 weeks. We offer that, as you well know, during the school year. We do 2 semesters for our families and our community, but it's something we did a sort of a boot camp, an ESL adult boot camp for 2 weeks as well. Again, we really, the 3 of us in central office were talking, and we do a lot here, and we're proud of the things that we do, and we're proud of the teachers who give their time, and but we want to make sure that that gets out, because not a lot of school districts offer as much extensive programming in the summer to their communities as we do here at Whitman-Hanson. And at the end of the summer, we will have serviced hundreds of students in some capacity. So thank you for your time.
Very nice. Yes, Kara.
I just wanted to make a quick comment more than anything else. I think as a parent in the district, I think, as Rosemary and I were walking in, I was kind of chatting about how I wish that in Hanson and in Whitman that we had community centers and we had teen centers, and in the absence of that, all of the schools, but especially this building, is really a hub and a safe space and a place where kids can kind of follow their passions and stay out of trouble. And I know my own children were here almost daily, and every time I was here, there was such a buzz and energy and welcoming environment. Even things as simple as having the basketball court open for kids to come and shoot hoops for a little bit like that. I'm incredibly grateful as a parent that we have those opportunities, and I agree that it's a rarity. And I think, again, because we don't have some of those resources in our towns, the schools taking on those is very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Anybody else? Okay.
You just made me think of something, Kara, because there was a time, speaking of community center, that the high school had Main Street with adult classes in the evening throughout the year. And I'm going to just toss that out there, that maybe that's something in the future that can come back to expand that community building service.
Yeah, they had all kinds of things like dance and cooking and, all different
And
things.
I know I took one.
Yeah, I did a long time ago, too.
We'll be getting computers by case.
Yeah. Yes, Rosemary.
Back on this, I personally would love to learn Portuguese. We have so many parents that speak Portuguese now that I really, I've been online trying to pick some up, but just collectively for school.
It was working for a little bit.
Yes, I'll be running.
I'm gonna wait till I
There we go.
over.
All set.
Just so that we are dialoguing, whether it be video or things, just so that we are, everybody in that conversation, I feel like, available to us even.
So on that, just as an inside, thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
George, we're busy all
Thank
summer. We never ever close, and I think that gets lost sometimes because trying to get the buildings ready for opening when your last program is 2 weeks before, and every floor of the high school is being used, and then orientation comes in. So our maintenance guys, ladies, our teams really work hard to get these ready. And I do want to, we did a shout out at our facilities meeting about how they do over the summer and how much work is done. On that note, we talk about capital too. This building doesn't close, and if things go down in this building, summer shuts down, winter shuts down. We're having issues with our chiller, we're having issues with our fire panel. These are necessities that keep us running as a hub of the community. And when it gets hot, and central office can verify, we had a couple days that it was 95 plus upstairs because our AC wasn't working upstairs because it was broken. And that is a place where you can't really work. There's nowhere else to go. So shout out to our maintenance folks. Shout out to our staff that keeps coming up with different ideas for kids to do. And I do say, we're an open book that adult ed was here when I first started. It trickled out because of lack of interest, but there's always something if we throw out a flyer and I can get staff to do things or community members. Way back when I was younger, I ran adult ed in Situate. So it was valuable for the community, but it's something that we can look at and keep this place moving forward and keep people interested in high school.
Kara?
Just one final comment, Jeff, you made me think about, and as we're talking about the use of the buildings year-round, we're talking about services beyond just academics that our school buildings and our school staff are supporting. I think also, I know later on we're talk about capital expenditures, and I think that the wear and tear on the buildings, it being a year-round use as opposed to 9 months of use, is something to take into account when they're, in addition to offering traditional school opportunities, they're offering expanded community opportunities. So I think that's another piece to factor in.
And that's, what you're saying, Kara, is very important because for the new middle school building that's going on, that was part of, we had to, for the energy sources, how long are you planning this building to be open during the day and during the summer and everything? So that all has to plan because of saving energy and things like that. So what you're saying is absolutely true. It's so important, and that's why we have to look at these capital items.
Yeah.
Really important. Okay, Ross.
So moving on to, as I said, I was going to report out in class size. In your packet, you have a class size list that I put together, and also the high school schedule, because I didn't want to break that down by class. So if you want to plug through the high school schedule, it's 70 pages long. You'll be able to see where your class sizes are. As we know, there were some cuts to the budget last year. I tried to be as efficient as possible in our class sizes in district, and you will see some changes in the high school with some numbers that are a little bit more than what we're used to. There's two parts to that. We did reduce a few staff members at the high school. However, we also went to an 8-period day schedule at the high school, so every student picked up really a seventh class. They all have a study hall as well, but they all have 7 classes. So you'll see as you go through, our elective classes are really, really full, which we had challenges in the past of filling our elective classes because students were going back and forth. So our elective classes are really full, but some of our core classes are a little bit more than I'd like. So that might be something we address next year. I know we have had diminishing enrollment, but it's not diminishing to the point of, I'm not super comfortable having 28 kids in a class. We'd like to get back. What I'm really happy with, though, is our focus on elementary and our K-6, K-5 class sizes are better than our neighbors because I did a straw poll. So let's keep that there because as George and Nikki will report out in November, we're seeing tremendous growth in our elementaries and where they're moving forward. The pieces that we put in play, I'm not going to steal their thunder, but it's what we're doing is working. Lowering class size and putting interventions in is absolutely working for our kids. Having a curriculum for our kids is working, and our kids are moving past, again, 6 years ago, we're content to be marginal. I think we're moving past marginal. So we need to make sure the budget and the asks continue to be in the best interest of our kids. So these class sizes, you can look through them, fire off some questions for me if you need those. You'll see different numbers at Whitman Middle a little bit because certain kids take social studies and certain kids don't. They take EL or they're in a sub-separate. So you see a variety. It's hard to just pinpoint. There's 180 kids in a certain section. Our elementaries are there. Our class sizes will remain relatively consistent. We looked at the NESDEC report. We're not going to grow exponentially, but we're not shrinking either. The bubble class at Conley's our biggest elementary class, and that's grade 5. And our anomaly is at Duval, I think, in 2nd grade, which is one of our lowest classes that we've ever had. But everything else seems to be consistent. I'm glad that Conley and Duval bounced back with their kindergartens this year. It's good. So we're there. The other piece of this, and I'll just let you know, we had 398 students enroll between May and September. That includes all our K kids. But we had 25 school choice students enroll and 41 EL students enroll as well over that time frame. Homeschool, we do have 68 students in district that are homeschooled, 35 from Whitman and 33 from Hanson. I would have preferred to have more choice numbers than we have, but we're bouncing back a little bit. And then right now our choice numbers are offsetting our choice kids going out. I'd like to build that back up little by little with the help of the committee. If we continue to move forward with choice, we'll vote again like on that in February.
Yes, I'm sorry, Glenn.
68, is that a normal number? Or have we seen an increase?
Of what?
Homeschooling.
Homeschooling? I don't think so. George can answer that because he signs off on all of them.
Curious.
The biggest issue the biggest numbers we ever had in homeschool were during the COVID years.
Yeah,
and then
let's skip that.
Right. No, that is exactly where we usually are.
Okay, we're
we
back
go
to where we
somewhere
were.
between. We usually go somewhere between 55 and 75 as a whole. Sometimes there is an anomaly because there might be a large family.
Sure.
But that is within the expectations of what we normally have.
I got to follow up. All grades, are you allowed to homeschool all grades?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And one more, sorry.
No, you got it.
What are the requirements? What qualifications?
No,
Should
that's
I just say
that's a
I'm
great
a home-
question. So the Charles decision was passed
Yeah.
in Massachusetts, and that Charles decision is
That's crazy.
the law case that says that you can homeschool.
That's
So
it.
what they need is they need to actually write to the school that they live in and say that they have an intent to homeschool. Then they need to provide how many hours, the subjects, and and the length of time. Now, 99% of all the people say 180 days based on,
Yeah.
the 4 major subjects and phys ed, field trips, and all of that. And then at the end, they need to pass into the school a synopsis of what happened. Call it report card, call it warning progress report, call it whatever it is that you need. But the rights are basically, once the intent is made, are basically with the families who choose to homeschool.
Okay. So one more, sorry. Do we still get paid for those kids?
No.
No. Okay.
They're not Chapter 7
That's it.
eligible.
Right.
The other feedback.
I don't
too,
like it.
And we also, though, the law gives us leeway to allow a homeschool student to participate in an extracurricular.
So they can play sports too?
So this year, yes, they can play a sport. They can participate in an extracurricular, and it also
Do they go to
gives them,
college?
we don't supply curriculum to them. Even though some have asked, we don't. We all are bound, though, to provide special education services. So that's the law, and again,
That's the law.
it's not something that, we usually challenge. Most parents, send us what we need. Some have been very vague and some are very detailed. We choose not to challenge that. If a parent wants to do something for their child, that's their option.
Yes, Lori.
So I just want to talk about or make a comment about the middle school class sizes versus the high school class sizes. And I am pretty sure I've asked this before, but middle school, we do not have levels, right? So,
No, correct.
right. So I think that is very important for everyone who might see this and say, wow, they have class sizes of 18 and 20. What a small class. It is when everybody is at the same level. But they're not. And I think that is really important, and that speaks to why these class sizes have to remain this size.
because the teachers are teaching to 4 different levels of students, 5 different levels of students, all who have to get to the same standards and same benchmarks at the same time during the year, right? High school is different because it's leveled. I mean, I have classes of 28. It's not great, still not great, but it's a little bit different. I still think those are very high. But I think that if someone were to look at the high school numbers and see 28 and then look at the middle school and see 18, 20, why don't we take someone there? They're very different. And I just want to make sure that the public and people have that understanding of the intricacies of middle school.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yes.
Just feedback on you, essentially. That it's my understanding that it is common at the lower levels to have smaller classrooms. And that there are.
You got to speak up, remember?
It's my understanding that it is common and best practice to have smaller classrooms at the lower levels for the same reason that my fellow committee member mentioned. But also, there is a loss of hours. The larger you get, the less access. So we do want to do the best job, and I think there's Boston Public Schools have a range that breaks out the hours. I think it's 25 max for certain classes for that. So even if we have surrounding towns that are doing things, utilizing the science and the data behind making sure that these kids have what they need and meeting that bench line, I think should be our priority.
Yeah. Kara, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, and again, this is a little bit coming from a parent lens as well, thinking about my own children coming through the system who are now in high school. And something I've always been kind of mindful of is these cohorts of kids who are currently going through the high school are the same kids who had oversized elementary classes and reduction in services. So even though, and I'm by no means begrudging these class sizes at the elementary school, I think those are good class sizes for elementary, not, I think the smaller the better. I do worry a little bit about these high school numbers because these are kids who, as they've moved through, have unfortunately been the ones who have kind of gotten the short end of the stick every time. And so the cumulative effect of that just is something just
Sure.
like kind of food for thought.
It's good feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good feedback, especially, knowing that piece of it.
Yeah.
Dawn?
Again, we've been in place for a while.
Dawn and then Glenn.
And, and we've tried to really adjust that elementary piece,
Yeah,
and that was the focus.
Which
so.
it should be, yeah.
Okay, Dawn?
I would add also, not only in the middle school are there different levels of learners, but many students speak different languages in the classroom. So you have a staff member who, in one particular class, may need to take more time out of the learning time to address that language barrier, whereas there may be another classroom that doesn't have as many English language learners, whether they're first graders or eighth graders or high schoolers. So that is some consideration when what you don't see on paper is what
Right.
language that staff member is having to learn in that classroom. My question about enrollment declining and so forth, it looks like I would make an assumption it's stable, and I'm only going to say, because I added up the kindergartners, and I say stable just because one dynamic of enrollment is how many seniors graduated, how many kindergartners came in, aside from preschoolers. So you have 246 on here for kindergartners. High school overall is 982. So if we're averaging, we're maybe 250 in the high school grade.
The high school, the freshman class is the smallest we've ever had this year, of 225. Okay? Now, that's why I see the K numbers coming back up. That's a good thing. Remember, though, we lose 60 kids a year to vocational schools.
From eighth grade.
From eighth grade. So trying to keep a class of 300, and we're not seeing the eighth grade classes of 300 anymore. So as I've talked to Dr. Jones over the past 4 years, I said, by 2026, you might have a high school of 900, where this in 2010 was 1250. So, I mean, that's how many we've lost. So when I say stable and I start seeing that group of kids now being 240, that's still lower than what we used to have. You were at the middle school with 325 kids.
Yeah, we've had middle school classes of 220 just in the Whitman Middle School. So we always used to bring in
an average sixth grade of somewhere between 185 and 205.
Yep.
Those numbers are not there. The one thing NESDEC always puts out, and we're part of NESDEC, which is the New England School Development Educational Council. They always put out a yearly trends in New England, sort of where we at in the country as far as birth rates and things. And that they were the people who, when we went for the middle school project, we listed it as what we knew. They listed it as science and data, what they knew was coming from birth rates, and we are actually right on par with what they are suggesting in the declining birth rates and declining student population. It is all over the East Coast. However, the one thing we don't account for necessarily is populations that shift, that we're not aware of, that come in and come out from students who join us from other towns and things like that.
The other piece, the intangible that there's a concern. I don't know how much land can be developed in Hanson especially, because there's a lot of space.
Yeah.
And Indian Head is full, and Hanson Middle could be full. So looking projected down the way, one of my colleagues in a local town has grown exponentially as their new high school is not big enough for them anymore. And the new high school is 3 years old. Because they've grown and people have sold their farms and have put in developments. Whitman, when Mr. Curran used to be here, he said, we're pretty full, but they're putting places all over the place.
Because we have storage.
So looking at that, depending upon, I mean, I know birth rates are birth rates, but if we bring in, 300 more families and they have 2 kids, even though they're only having 2, not 5, it can have an impact on us in a positive way, getting us back with Chapter 70 money, but spatially, this high school can handle 1,200 kids, but our elementaries are going to be challenged if we start putting more students in, especially on the Hanson side.
Glenn, you had?
Yes, I'm just looking up averages. So we're 28, that's K through 12. Our average is 28 per class. Is that what you said?
No.
Okay.
K to 5, I'm in the 20s.
Okay.
Middle school, I'm in the 23s-ish. High schools, I'm around 25.
Okay.
Okay? We're not up there. I have some.
We're a little higher than the national average. This says it's 1920.
Yeah.
K through 12.
Okay.
And Massachusetts came up with the same number.
Okay. We're in a good.
And does that vary?
Yes, it varies tremendously. And again, if you look at an average, high school wise, there's some areas that I'd like to pull in and drop it a little bit, but there's some areas that we could actually move up a little bit. Middle school, I think we're in a good spot. In elementary, we're in, again, when I talk to my colleagues where we're at 19, we're better than that.
Are there recommended guidelines for like when kids stop learning, like at 40? They're going to have a hard time learning.
Lifelong learners, Glenn.
Yeah.
We're all lifelong learners.
Yeah, but when I first started teaching, I had a class of 32, so fourth grade.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
That was a while
remember
ago.
32 names.
It was a long time ago.
Switching, just thinking.
Yeah, I'm going to speak first.
You had on there?
That many last year.
Yeah, so I just want to speak to it's nice to see these numbers. And as George said, I was with George when the numbers were huge, and I taught social studies, and we had everyone. We had all the students with a high, low, or whatever, whereas there was pull out for math, pull out for ELA, but not for science and social studies. So I did have the classes of 28, 29 students when I was teaching. Now to see these numbers now, I would have loved that, personally. Yes, Rosemary.
Again, science and data to sort of predict forward. I'm a big, make sure you're prepared. We are having a lot of shifting with building and getting a sense of what percentage of buildings produce a percentage of students might be an idea. And then so that we can prepare forward that way, because we're using historical numbers as we're shifting with, the MBTA building. We've taken the zoning right around the T. You can see large buildings going up in Hanson next to their T. They're going to have children in those buildings. So preparing and allowing towns to prepare financially and trending forward that way might be thought by looking at occupancy permits that are pulled. So, as that goes up, permits, the occupancy permits determine that they've actually been built. And then getting a sense of, for every occupancy permit, how many more kids do we start to see in those elementary schools? I know 2 buildings next to me, both have, 2 beautiful homes next to my house were built, and both of them have, I think, children right away. So
Right.
they're young, they're coming in. So it's a beautiful thing to see a community grow. But also we have to be prepared
Sure.
ahead of time. You know?
And I agree, and that's like I said, it's like the little fear, because there's a lot of unknown there, and as things come up, we have kids and we need to educate them, and when they come in, we'd like to be prepared. And that's just, I had an off-the-cuff conversation with some of the select board members at Hanson a few years back, and I said, Indian Head is going to be a new project at some point. The experience we've had with Whitman Middle School, it's almost a 10-year project. It's 9 years from the start to the finish, and we were accepted on the first time. If we're looking at 10 years out from today, that's 2035. If we're looking at, we haven't written a statement of interest yet. I don't know if there's any flavor to do that yet, but Indian Head is an older building, and we're going to start spending money on the building itself, and it is smaller. And if there is development in Hanson, we're going to have to make some decisions sooner than later based upon a trend of getting more students. So read through the high school schedule. There's some really cool classes in there too. If you want to take one, we can see it. Superheroes is one of our English electives. I think Mr. Coffey had to give up some of his electives this year. He's teaching real U.S. history this year. So, but we have some really good offerings, and the new schedule is working really well for kids and giving that opportunity to have another class. Going into my goals, George and Nikki mentioned it. I'm asking you to do this as a reading item today. Go through. We really hit every standard. And when I say they're my goals, they're central office's goals. I don't do this alone by myself. Everybody works together from me to central office, to our department heads, to our curriculum leaders, to our staff members. They all take part in making us move forward. I stayed away from anything financial, knowing that budgets over the next couple of years might be problematic or challenging. And we've really tried to do a 2-year plan, especially when it's not a quick fix. We're looking at instruction and how we're assessing how we instruct, and we're going to come up with a process of doing some learning walks. We need to establish processes. It wouldn't be fair to staff members to say, hey, this is a goal, we're going to show up in your classroom and train our administrators to look for certain things. The Whitman Middle School project, I'm looking at breaking ground this year, and there's going to be a lot of movement of student staff over the next 3 years of not necessarily building the building, but redetermining where people are going to be when that building opens up in 2027. We're still looking at teachers and recruitment. This year, we just hired an English teacher last week. So it's been a real challenge to bring folks in. We do have some alumni in here, but we're still looking at people of diverse backgrounds, race, religion, and just more diversity to come in. So that's another one of my goals. So I'd like to just ask you to read through them. If you have any questions on them, send them to me. We'll talk. But I'm going to ask for a vote on these goals in October, so we can start moving forward on that. But it is we went away from 1 to 2 year, again, because we don't see a quick fix for this year or something that's attainable within this year. There are more processes as we go forward. And, when I start looking at breaking ground in March, that's going to be a huge undertaking for our office. Once we start seeing the trucks rolling in and doing some things over at Whitman Middle. So if you do have questions, please send them to me.
Jeff, is this in the drive?
It is in the drive. I'll drop it
Can
in.
you put it in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking for it.
Absolutely. Capital items so we, as a capital subcommittee, operations subcommittee, voted on some things. George, you want to talk a little bit about that? We have to provide Whitman by October 1st, our capital items for the spring town meeting. So we've put something together, approved by our subcommittee just now, but we have to have a full approval of the school committee. The Hanson capital items that you'll see, we already sent to Hanson because they were due to Hanson in July for their special town meeting in October. So I'll let George jump in.
Sure. So the easiest way to do this, because we already had our capital meeting, is that if you see the paper that looks like a mouse cut the corner, that's because I ripped off the staple for some of you, and that was all the backup. But I think what you need to realize is what's on this paper are 10 items that we're moving forward for from our capital improvement committee for the towns. These 10 items, 9 of them were the exact same ones that were last year. There is one new one, and that is the boiler replacement. It is not a full replacement of the boiler at the Hanson Middle School. It is simply making the boiler more efficient. We're basically going to gut it, put in new, so it's auto-injected firing to start it up, and then that is also equitable for rebates. In our meeting previously, the capital subcommittee, I'm probably stealing Steve Boyce's flavor. I apologize for that, Mr. Boyce, as the new chair. But what we did is we went through all of the cost breakdowns. I don't know, Chair Stafford, if you'd like to take the vote now, if that's because there is, Steve has something he can add to that, if we want to take it. Or I can explain every one of them. So the high school chiller is what makes it hot in here that Jeff had to speak about. The chiller, the school's 20 years old, and when that goes down, we're looking to replace that. That has been on previous capital committee pieces. The high school fire panel is end of life, end of support. We've had it on here for the last few years, and we're still at that very same place. If that does go down and we can't have it, we have to have a fire watch, which is that we pay for overtime, and we have a firefighter who mans the building. The HMS boiler replacement is what I just spoke of. It's the retrofit of that. The Conley Duval WMS wireless access points, you've seen some were installed in 2000.
No, I was just going to say, add the E-rate piece, because.
I will, I'll get, yeah.
Perfect.
So when we get, back up, just threw my mojo off. When we get to the technology aspects of this, I want to let you know that we use what's called E-rate. E-rate is a federal funding mechanism that you receive up to 50% off whatever you buy for certain products. So what we were able to do was, for the things such as anything in technology, as the wireless access points, as the core router replacement, and as the battery backups, that is at a 50% savings to both towns. Basically what you have to do is you put out the money, 50% comes back from the government, and then that is why we're able to save the towns that. We tried this last year, it didn't work. We have already secured the funding for it this year. So when you see the total prices that Mr. Boyce would let you know for both towns, for all of these projects that we're asking you to vote on to move forward, you can see that. But that is what the E-rate funding will allow. But everything in here, if you don't know what a core router is, that's the #1 piece that allows information technology to come into your building. Whether it's the internet, whether it's just traffic on the different wireless access points so you can get service, that is everything that's needed. Ours is out of support, out of life, and so that needs to be replaced. When you talk about wireless access points, those are just the links that you have. There's a box right above you so that you can make sure that you have wireless connectivity, not only for yourselves, but for the students and basically everything we do. The rest of the things that are on here are also the backup battery units. When you talk about backup battery units, that's in the loss of electrical power. These are systems that can keep us running and our servers running for up to 6 hours. The reason that this is very important, at the high school, yes, we have a full generator. If that does not work, we have at least a backup for 6 hours so that we can do all of our downloads to our data and save it. But at the individual schools, those are the things that keep the power, those are the things that keep not only the emergency lighting on at some buildings, but also your phone's still working so that we can continue in the case of a power outage for those schools that only have partial generator power. So all of these are not new. They're new, obviously, if you're a new member. The only new one on here from last year that you all voted positively on was the boiler replacement, but that came to us this year and it's rebate eligible, so that cost is nominal for everything else. Steve has the total cost for Whitman. Steve has the total cost for Hanson. If you would like to, he's going to ask for some type of motion if you want to.
Yeah,
And
just if I could just,
Yeah.
one question. So in other words, what you're saying is 4 through 10 are 50% reimbursable?
4 through 10, yes, technology. Number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7.
And the batteries?
Yeah, you're smarter than I. Number 8, number 9, number 10, yes.
Yeah,
Make
so
go along.
50%.
50% off.
But 3 is rebatable, correct?
3 is rebatable, not fully rebatable. It is rebatable in the retrofit that we're doing.
Yep.
So the cost of a full
So
boiler is.
Like a tankless system type?
It is not for the hot water. It's to replace the inner workings of the one we have there so that we can move from whatever it was to the ignition fired switch so that the pilot basically can come on and we can move forward. I have the details if you so want, though. We just need, in essence, we blessed the one in the summer because that's what you had voted on last year, so we could get Hanson theirs for their October 1st special. And then we need to get it to Whitman by October 1st, even though it's a May meeting, and some of these quotes will expire and be old, but that's what they asked for, so we're trying to be good partners.
But no partial rebate on the chiller, correct?
No partial rebate on
That's a rooftop unit, is that correct?
Yeah, that's on the rooftop, yeah. We have 2 chillers here, we're trying to replace one.
Gotcha.
Just letting the committee know too, all of these capital items were passed over in the spring. So we received 0 in capital from either town. Traditionally, Hanson votes in the fall, so they just move our capital over, but Whitman passed over all of these capital items in the spring. That's why we're just bringing them right back to you, because these are things that we need, they're necessities.
Yes, Ellen?
The high school fire panel, how long? I feel like we've been talking
5,
about
6
that for years.
Ernie was still here, so you're talking at least 5 to 6 years ago that it's been on.
Okay, so my question, I have a couple questions actually. So the funding piece I think is tricky, right? Because if Hanson approves it in October and then Whitman doesn't approve it until May, but the cost could be $10,000 more, what do we do? How do we handle
So
that?
traditionally what has taken place then is that, so let's say the cost is $100,000. Then let's say so Hanson approves that roughly 40%, let's say, so it's $40,000 for Hanson. Let's say by the time it gets to Whitman's, it's $120,000, a 10% increase in the 7 to 9 months since then. Then what would happen is that no work can be done till the summer after the meeting, after the spring meeting for Whitman, and then we would put another warrant on for Hanson in the spring.
Okay.
So that hopefully then that roughly 60-40 split would be met so that we can move forward with the project. I will say that Hanson has, in the past, some of this has come up and they've said, well, we'll do it for October. So we moved forward, done it, and then gone from there.
So, okay, so I guess a couple of follow-up questions. So my other follow-up question is, has anyone figured out what the cost would be to, compared the cost of having, you said we need essentially like a firefighter on detail?
Yeah.
If this were to go, so has anyone talked about what the difference in cost would be? I guess my question, and then to follow up on that also, if this is the process, then Hanson's ending up spending more money on capital, essentially, by passing stuff over in the spring.
True.
Theoretically, right?
Potentially.
Potentially, theoretically. So who is communicating from the capital subcommittee to the capital committee person in Hanson and in Whitman, I guess, also, not just to their town administrators, but to say, you shouldn't be passing this over in the spring because essentially it's going to be costing you more money.
I will say that historically.
And I'm not trying to say
No, I
should
will
be you,
say,
it should be you, but
I will say historically communication has been an issue.
Okay.
And that that issue sometimes continues, and we try to move forward as best we can with what we can do.
Okay,
How's that sound?
great. That was more rhetorical.
Yeah.
So again, and I mentioned it at the capital committee, that we found at the last Hanson Town meeting that they had a special account too for Whitman-Hanson.
Yes.
Capital.
Yes.
So that might help us in the future, so it's not coming out of their capital expense or free cash.
I just want to make note that
Let me say your name first, and then let me recognize you. Okay.
Thank you.
Rosemary?
I want to make note that Whitman also has that account. It was just merged with another account because you legally have to have them in both towns. It just is under another, has a small amount of money in it. It should be done aggregately, if I'm reading the law correctly. You can go to your attorneys and clarify that. I am confused, and I'm going to, from my experience on Finance Committee, I have always been a little confused at how it is able to not be presented to the public, because it is my understanding that it comes from us and it goes. It's supposed to go directly to the public. On the floor, you can pass. It's my understanding that on the floor you can pass, but it has not made it to the warrants. And we've had, at Finance Committee, we've had this discussion because of which Hillary has brought up, is that things get more expensive. The problem doesn't go away. And that long-term, it has a larger cost, and we had to look at things long-term. We couldn't be short-sighted about that. So I share that concern, but I also think we should be looking towards our attorneys to clarify what should be presented directly to the public in our regional school.
One of the pieces too, I mentioned at Capitol as well, and George and I have talked about this. We will be presenting something to the Regional Agreement Committee in terms of Capitol as well, for a discussion and maybe a vote, to see where we're at. But the process that we've had, and there's been, it's Frank Malisi is the chair of the Capitol Committee. He's been in good contact with us since he's been chair. There's been really good communication back and forth. Donnie Esten has been the former chair, and Whitman, good communication. The challenge has been passing this in October, and then they have their meeting in February, and then our go back and forth. We're trying to streamline that a little bit, and I do believe there's a new chair in Whitman as well, in Capitol, so we can maybe move forward. But I know that Don had said something, the warrant article in Whitman had some of the capital items, they just passed over them. So what we had presented were on the warrant, they just were not discussed, so.
Glenn?
Is there a reason why the towns have different timelines for these regional capital expenditures?
No, Whitman came up with their capital idea and sent us a notification probably 3 or 4
Wouldn't
years ago.
common sense say to sync up on this subject? Because
I have
it
no
can
comment.
only cost more money to not sync up. You're not gonna ever save money by being on separate timelines.
The
And
challenge,
wouldn't it make sense for Whitman to get on the October timeline versus
Either.
Hanson to, well, then, because the
Okay,
costs are going to increase.
can I just say, they don't often have an October town meeting, whereas Hanson always does. Whitman does not.
That's what I'm
The
wondering
earlier the
about,
better,
that,
you're
like,
right.
Hanson passes everything over in the May.
And goes through.
And so it's actually, that's kind of the
the
issue.
initiation.
I have one more
Got it.
question, too.
Thank you.
But they use free cash to handle those things.
Okay, Glenn?
When do these get budgeted into the, so we haven't, it wasn't in previous budget.
these aren't our budget, these go right to the town.
The town pays for these
Yeah,
things.
it's nothing
Oh,
on
This
that.
isn't for us at
They
all.
must love that.
So one of the pieces that
Yes,
we're
sir.
probably going to propose is somehow us asking the town for a direct.
So we have to sell it to them.
Correct. And that's challenging
Of
sometimes.
course it is.
So, and other things happen within the community. So,
Sure. So you never get everything you want.
we're looking for what we need, not necessarily what we
Okay.
want now. And it's a very different thing.
Do they ask you that? Who
Yes, they do.
actually
So
presents it?
what you have right there is our priorities. We actually have a five-year
order?
plan. Yes.
Good, okay,
Yeah.
good. Who presents it?
So when we're invited to
You
the
two
Capitol
go.
meeting, we present it.
All right, good luck.
Okay, one more, and then we gotta move on. Steve, let Steve go first.
Question to
Yep, and then I'll let Dawn.
George, the fire alarm, it's just a panel, a change out for the panel, the devices,
The devices are
notification
also,
devices, anything that's compatible can stay.
the devices are all at end of support. So 4 years ago, it was just the panel. So now it would be also the smoke. So if this panel goes, we need to do the whole thing over.
Because we took so long.
That's where we've gotten to.
All right,
It
so
used to
panel
be-
and all the devices too.
Yeah,
All right, and it's a 20-year-old system,
correct.
Yes.
everything, the panel,
This whole building.
Device-
Yes, that's
Source
what-
stations,
yes,
everything.
Yes.
This building opened in
Needs to be updated.
2005. So we're talking now, in 24, 25, we're talking, this is a 19-year-old building. And we just said it's open 24/7, 365. So that's what happens.
And I think the overall goal would be, because this is just the prioritized list, and there's many things, if you ever go to the senior lot, the parking lot, or the staff parking lot, you have paving issues, you have routine maintenance, you have all of these pieces. We try to do our best to just say what is the most critical that we think we can either put off or move forward. In a perfect world, we would be able to work something out, hopefully through a regional agreement that says X amount, based on percentage, based on inflation, is put aside for the schools, and then the proper diligence, respect, and needs of the schools would be taken into account, so we would know what's coming in, what can be earmarked in normal years, and then we would be able to prioritize that ourselves. Because we can do these priorities. It's not when this goes there, then they reprioritize. So that's some of the issues, and there's been times of great communication and great work, and there's been times when, maybe not so much. So, but this is the list that we have today, and I know Steve has a motion that he'd like
Yep.
to move forward.
Dawn, you have one question before
I
Steve?
did, and George stole my thunder a little, probably because he knew I was going to say this.
Figured.
This is a list of 10 items that we're going to be voting on, but in the subcommittee, because I'm on capital facility subcommittee with Steve, I asked the administration if they could submit to both towns our full capital matrix, because these are not the only 10 needs of the district. And the parking lot was just mentioned, but I'll also mention, if we all remember the record snowfall in 2015, we have $1 million plus roof repair at Duval Elementary that has never been addressed. There's probably some Mickey Mouse going on to prevent leaks, but I know that's on the capital matrix, and the towns need to understand that these 10 are just 10 of more, and that this district, this committee has made a priority. Because last year, I watched both capital committees of both towns look at this 10 and say, oh, well, let's see what we want to prioritize out of 10, because this is all the district has. And then it also appears that we want everything. That's what they think. Well, you want all 10 of these? Well, so if my ask is that we include that $1 million plus roof repair at Duval, we include the parking lot to say these are also the needs of the district.
Well, it gives them a chance to.
Okay, Steve?
Yes.
You want to go?
So this is the motion, and I'll give you the numbers for both towns and the total. You saw already enough and heard already enough. I will say that the 40/60 is really a 61.49, 39.51, 38.51 split. So that's how that breaks down. So motion in total of $434,760.55, broken out Whitman $248,330.05, and Hanson $186,430. As presented, those numbers for the special Hanson Town Meeting, October 2024, and the May Whitman Annual Town Meeting, May of 2025.
Steve, could you just give me the Whitman split again?
Yeah.
248?
Whitman is 248,330
Okay, thank you.
and 5 cents.
Okay.
And George, am I missing 50 cents off of Hanson?
I'll take care of the 50 cents.
Gee, thanks, Lynn.
25 and 25.
Hanson
That brings
is
some- I got a question.
186,430 and 50 cents. See, Rosemary and I have those FinCom, I know. So that's my motion as in total presented. The recording secretary has those. She will soon have the numbers.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we've discussed it, I think, enough. So all in favor
Yeah, it's really.
of presenting? Okay, it's 8-0. Very good. Thank you very much, guys. Very important.
You've got the,
Okay, I'm next. Okay, so this has to do with, I'm sorry, Hanson members, but you can listen. This is for my Whitman
Affects us.
members.
It does affect us.
It does affect you, it certainly will.
Yeah.
So, the interesting part is we had 13 people
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's
put
more
in.
than I expected.
More than we all did,
Yeah,
which is wonderful,
but work.
But due to timeline, et cetera, and the chair of Select Board of Whitman being away, we have to have everything on October 1st. So being that way, everybody has hard copies now of of the 13 folks. Just to put it in, what happened was, it was put out that a request for a cover letter, of interest and a resume to come in by email to Mary Beth Carter, who is and the town administrator for Whitman. Of that, we received, so you have that to look over, did they do what they were supposed to do, et cetera. Because of the number, and we have been working with town council, and it had to be town council because this is a town election, town process, so not school per se. So council said we had to interview all 13, but we could do it differently, and she suggested a couple different ways. With 13 members, it would take forever, and we cannot do it over 2 days because that is inappropriate according to town council. So, working with Kyle Kowalski, we have been in constant contact for the past 2-3 weeks going over this. What has been determined is those 13 people are getting a letter. It was going to be mailed out today, I believe, or tomorrow at the latest, explaining what the process was going to be, and that it will be on TV, it will be in public, what they're going to go, and that all 13 will be asked, but they will be given 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, you have a resume to know what they have to offer as far as what they've done, what they're involved in. So we really don't need to hear that again. You have it. What we need to hear is what can they do for the school committee and the students in the region? What can they offer for us? And that's what their question is going to be. So they will know that ahead of time so they can prepare. They will be giving 10 minutes. There will be no questions by us because they're 13 and there, will be all these people. So they'll be given that time, and afterwards we will go through and right now, Carl and I are still discussing this because we both kind of agree, but council kind of suggested some other. We will go around and vote. My suggestion is that we go around and, everybody will be put into nomination. If there are still 13, all 13 will go. If there's only 11, because a couple of people drop out, when they know what the process is, sometimes people drop out. So how many, then we put into nomination, and then we start and vote. My suggestion is the top 2, everybody, you have to have 5 votes to get in. The first 2 who have the 5 votes get it. Now, council suggested we would do like Fred's first and then David's. My issue with that is I don't want those people to pigeonhole themselves that if they get like Fred's position, that's all they could run for in the spring. But that's not true, because there are going to be 4 positions, Don and mine, 3 years, so 2 3 years, 1 2 year, that's Fred's, and then 1 1 year, which is David's. That's how it'll be on the ballot. So right now, we might just do it that way and have it for Fred's position, because remember, it's only 8 months. It's only till May, and then they have to be elected. Right? Like Stephen, you did the same. Yours was a short term.
Yes.
And after I was appointed, and then I had to run the next May. So they will have to run for a position. So their position is only good for 8 months. And so I really, this is the best way that we could do this with that many applicants. We figured we'd maybe get 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah, to get 13 is yes.
Great.
Yeah.
You said that you want to do it the first to get 5 votes?
Yeah,
So somebody may not ever get a chance?
Get a vote? That's correct. Well, that's what happened with me. When I got the vote.
Doesn't seem right at all.
Well, when I did it, there were.
What if it was unanimous for the last person on the list?
No, everybody's in nomination. So like I would say, I nominate so-and-so.
Yeah, so you're all
Okay,
then
so
you're going to
that,
go
well,
around
I
and
mean,
vote.
okay, no, I would, so everybody goes in nomination. So
Nomination.
Steve says who he's gonna vote for.
Yep.
Then Steve says who he's gonna, Don says who.
Oh, okay, it's-
Go one by one, by
Okay, I
one, by
got
one. And, we'll tally it up and
Yeah.
see, and after we go through, then
Got it.
you keep going.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
I was
it's-
doing it
it's
like
gonna-
backwards.
it's gonna be a
I was doing
painful
it, the
process.
person stands
It's-
up and
yeah.
you all vote on the
Oh, no,
person.
no.
Got it.
In fact,
And if they got 5, they'd be it. That's what I'm.
no, it's.
I got you now.
It's who, people look at. I
Yeah.
mean, by the time we get there, hopefully you'll have some ideas, my folks will have some ideas. Rosemary?
My concern is with David's loss and the inequitable representation with the selectmen, that essentially the selectmen are picking who's on our school.
Well,
If they are picking the same person, and that is concerning to me.
okay, I did have that conversation
Thank
with
you.
Carl.
Thank you.
Definitely, because I had thought about it too, and I think I said that to you. He assured me that if it came on to that, he would vote with the school committee. he would move his vote to the school committee. So I don't know if I should say that out loud. but-
Yeah, there's no guarantee there either.
You did.
No, he's educated. He's an
I get it.
educator.
Yeah,
So I would have more confidence in that. So
How
I
many
felt
people are voting altogether?
Total 9.
9. That's what I just remembered.
it should be an equal representation from school
Right.
committee.
Right.
And because.
And normally it would
5
have
and
been.
4?
It would have been, because.
Yeah, because there's only 4
left.
of us left. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
you lose 2 votes from the thing you
Yeah.
voted.
We
But
did.
I will say that if that happened in Hanson, it would be the same way.
Yeah.
Because there's only 4 members in Hanson. If somebody from Hanson decided to resign now, the select board in Hanson has 5. And
You only have
5,
you
3
have
vote.
3 votes.
So you're hoping that everybody is doing the due diligence to elect or support the people that are in the best positions for the regional school committee.
Things are political. I mean, we know that, and I don't want to pretend that it's not. I have to say, if Carl is saying that, and Carl does that, I would be very impressed with Carl to do the right thing in that regard.
I think we have a couple of people on that board that would. I'm not really concerned knowing a couple of people. Yeah, Kara?
I just have 2 questions.
Yes.
One, I guess both around process. So my first is, are we including the select board as a like courtesy, or is that legally what
It's
we're
in our
required?
regional agreement.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah.
Board is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was my first question. My second
Yeah,
question
no,
is,
it's
I'm
not a
just
courtesy.
again trying to visualize how this plays out. If there are 9 people around the table and everyone lists their top 2 candidates, we could have a situation where you have multiple people, more than 2 that have 5 votes, right? So it's going to be whoever comes to the top?
Yeah, then
Okay.
it comes to the top.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what they did when I
Yeah.
did it. That's how they went around, nobody got
Yeah.
the 6 votes that was needed, and they had to go around, so then they dropped the ones who didn't have as many, and then they did
But
the,
you could have someone with like 7 votes but if you have someone else with 8 and 9, then the 7 votes still don't make it on the committee, right?
So it'll be a majority of
Okay,
the thing.
got it.
It'll be a majority. That's how it'll be read.
Okay.
Just to make a point, our regional agreement diverts from best practices. Best practices do leave this vote up to school committees regularly. So, like I said, I would be very impressed with Mr. Kowalski's vision towards best practices in this case, if that is the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that is, yes, go ahead, yes.
My question is just around the date. So
Yeah.
October 1st
Yes.
is important because it's 30 days from David's
Yeah.
date. Any reason we're not doing it sooner in the event maybe a
Yes,
hurricane?
Dr.
comes along
Kowalski will not be here. Dr. Kowalski
For
will
the
not be
next
here.
few weeks.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and Stephen has an issue starting tomorrow. We don't know how long he was not available, so.
Okay, so
Well, that was already in the paper.
And then both positions come up for election in 8 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if it doesn't go the way we'd like it to go, then
Yeah.
it gets straightened
They
out by
might- they might
the
not
town.
want me
will-
here.
They might not want to do it.
They might want to.
Right, they may not run.
Yeah,
They may
Yeah.
not run.
I know the feeling.
And it's like I said, what if I wanted
just
to do
kidding,
a
I love it.
2-year instead of a 3, Anybody could do that.
You'll
Yes.
have
I
it.
did have one little piece of this, just for fairness. We have 2 people that are on it that although have put themselves out and run and done the process, did not put the resume, they did the cover letter, and there may have been some confusion. The 10 minutes, I did reach out to everybody that I didn't know to ensure that they got more than 10 minutes to have conversations, but I wonder if 10 minutes, if you don't have the resume, really doesn't give that.
I'm sorry, then you didn't follow the rules, did
I
you?
get it, okay, thank you.
That's all I can say about that. I try,
I
yeah,
understand
I
that. I'm
know.
not in disagreement with you, I just trying to create that conversation.
Town council said that Carl and I could not take anybody out of the 13, even if they did not follow the rules.
So maybe.
So that is up to you guys
The phone.
to see, yes. Yes.
Can we review, is there a way to review the candidates before the first?
We have it. You don't, because you don't have a vote. The Whitman people all have
These are
it.
Whitman seats.
Understood.
We're
Yeah,
out of
yes,
them.
they have
We're
a packet.
observers.
Yeah, they have a packet. Everybody has a
I
packet.
might come.
And-
Yeah, I can stare at people.
You and me both.
Signs in the spring.
You and me both.
It's not, this is not easy, it's not, and town council said, we have to do it with David's because we did not do it with Fred, even though it had been mutually decided that somebody could file, but by the time they filed, the positions would be filled. So not to worry. That was town council. So I'm going by what she said, and we're following the rules that she stated that, because Kyle and I did have other ideas, but we were shut down. So, anyway, so that's where we are. So October 1st, 6 o'clock, and like I said, so, hopefully.
It's going to be a town hall, right?
Huh?
Town hall?
Town hall, selectman's office upstairs, second floor.
You don't think they should move it downstairs? With 13 people?
No, there's a outside, they sit
Are they just
outside.
gonna have the interviewees sit outside and call them in? Because that's
Yeah.
what they did when you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Open to the public or no?
It should be, yes.
Yes.
It's public meeting.
yeah, it'll be on
Oh, it's
TV.
televised too.
Right.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
lovely, yes.
You were
It's
great.
worse, it was worse than running.
Sure.
Running was easier.
I would dread that 10 minutes.
That's why some people might drop off.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So that be,
that's that. Now, because of Fred and David leaving, and we had to set people in, even though we might have two more people coming in that maybe could help us fill a couple things, we need to fill a couple of them right away.
yeah, the secretary piece is very critical for us. So we have, David was our secretary, so we need a new secretary.
And that's important. You think it's not, but that person has to sign a lot of official documents, especially with the building committee. Things have to be signed, so we really need somebody as secretary.
Motion for Glenn DeGravio.
I'll second it.
Anybody
just
else? Do I
signing
have-
stuff?
Yes, just so,
Yes.
I'm always around.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Signing, that's great.
Anybody else? Okay, then all in favor of Glenn, raise your hand, please.
Thank
You got
you.
it, Glenn?
Thanks.
Okay, that was easy. Great.
Negotiations,
Okay. So Fred was negotiations on A and B?
A and B.
A and B.
Can you
Now,
remind me what
normally,
the-
we really
Can you
have,
remind us again what the,
A is the teachers.
Okay.
B is the,
Administrators.
like, assistant principals, and the directors. C is the administrative assistants, and D are the paras.
got it.
Okay? So normally for A, at least, we had two, but we only have, only
had
Fred was right now.
We kind of had you queued in.
I know, and I've done a lot of thinking about it. I just, and I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily object to being on negotiations for one of the other groups. I'm just a little reluctant to do teachers personally, I just feel like I would have a hard time with it, honestly. I don't know that I would do the committee justice and be able to separate my personal and professional lenses that way.
Fair
So,
enough.
I'm willing to consider to be on one of the others.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's not easy, but having been done both sides, been management and teacher, because I was a selectman, so
Right.
I had to do it the other way. It's not that hard to do, Officially, I could actually do it because my retirement has nothing to do with the contracts. And retirement is, and my retirement specifically is not in the contracts. I haven't filed with ethics and things like that, but we do need people to do that. It's not easy. It's wonderful, I should say, with Kevin and Cindy right there. They're so wonderful, so easy to work with. Dawn?
I'd like to make a suggestion just for discussion purposes. I believe I'm Unit C, admin
Yes.
assistant. I'd be willing to relinquish that if that's something another member would want to take up. And if there was someone else that would jointly do Unit A, I'd be willing to consider that.
C is administrative assistants.
I don't feel I have the background to do Unit A individually. I know you have.
We would need two people anyway. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, two.
Yeah, it should be two because.
It's always been two.
I do a lot of the work with Stephen, giving you all the numbers and everything, but it truly should be the negotiation. We've had this with the school committee members talking right to union leadership. I'm the kind of go-between. It's challenging, but it's, I will say our association is outstanding to work with. And even when we don't have great conversation because we're at a disagreement, it's very cordial, and we're really professional, so
So
it's not a
I'm sort of
bad thing to
putting
be.
that out to discussion.
Yep.
Steve?
You need two?
Like
We,
that, too.
just for A, usually we
Yeah,
have two.
well, I'll do it.
I'd be happy.
Is it Cindy, or if it's Kevin, I might have to run home. Because I haven't worked with him yet. Yeah, you're welcome for the compliment.
I
Oh,
would lean
sorry.
on family members that have worked as union heads to sort of help me understand it, but I'd be happy to.
We also need B as well.
Yeah, and
So-
we need B.
And B can be by yourself, or it can be two. That's fine, too. We've had that in the past as well.
So, Kara, would you do
Well,
C?
I'm definitely happy to take C from Dawn.
Okay.
If that feels like not totally fair trade.
Okay, so Kara's going to do C. And Steve, you're already for D, right?
Am I doing Paris? I thought.
You-
No, I'm not doing parents.
You're not.
I don't have anybody. I was waiting a hot second.
I mean, I'm fine to do
I thought,
Paris. Where's
didn't, wasn't it
George?
Steve?
It might not have been. It might
Who
have
is
been
on,
David.
who's
All right, I
on
Oh, maybe
A?
it was David?
It might have been David.
Oh, maybe it was David. Never mind, I'm sorry. It was me.
Yeah.
I've been David.
Oh, David.
It used to be Phil.
Steve Boyce and David last time.
Yeah.
I forgot whether it was C or D, but I did both.
Okay.
I don't mind, I also don't mind helping, I mean, I would imagine C and D are like, are a lighter look
It is light-
than
it's a
than
light-
A and
Yeah,
B,
because
right?
Well-
they're going by the
Right.
A and
Right.
B, because they go by what happens in A.
Right, right,
Yeah, there's 3 years in between when your bones heal
yeah.
from negotiations.
Okay. I'm looking at how many teachers here. I'm not a teacher, so I'd be happy to do the teacher's contracts because we are limited to how many people that we
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I don't want to put this burden on 2 new people that walk in October, because
Okay.
the association has already asked us to negotiate. So that's why we're trying to get this narrowed down today.
Sure, I get it.
So we have 3 people maybe for A,
Think I can-
and we can break that down, and nobody for B? So
I'll do B.
can we,
You want B instead of A?
I'll have B.
Okay. All right, so Steve, you want to do A
with Dawn?
Sure.
with Dawn? Okay.
Is that good for you? Awesome.
And then, okay.
And I could use it-
Rosa, you'll do-
You want to do B by yourself or somebody else?
I would like somebody else to do it with me if they don't mind. I think it's a fair, anyone?
It's a small group too. So you're talking, you're 14 people
B.
Yeah.
representing B, so.
How often?
Yeah. It depends on if we agree to anything or not. you know.
Okay.
It could be
I just
short.
want to commit to something that's gonna.
Why don't you commit to it, and then if it doesn't work, we'll
Then I'll
go
do-
from there. We'll know from A.
What is it? What is it? What am I agreeing to?
Negotiating unit B.
I don't know what B is. I
B is
just,
the
where is
assistant
where is
It's
that?
only 14.
There's the assistant principals and the directors.
Okay,
So it's the administrators that are in the unit.
okay,
So
Not the principals. Principals
Yeah.
are not in the unit.
you
okay.
can always tap out again, because we
Yeah,
have
you
one.
know.
We've gone with
Yeah.
one. It could be a good.
And when does this
something-
happen?
Usually, I start with A. We'll hopefully start in October.
Okay,
And then once we get A going and feeling it out, we'll have an intro meeting with B.
okay,
C and D come later.
Sandy, wait.
okay.
So
So I am,
A is going to potentially take some time because it's a thicker contract.
Will I get emails from Jen on what,
Yes.
when and where's?
Okay, so we don't have a D.
Yeah, no, we don't have.
We don't have a D.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I'm reluctant, only because I both, obviously on the committee, but also from the teacher union perspective, have never been on a negotiations committee. So I'm a little reluctant to do 2 units on my own.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not trying to like wheel and deal. I'm wondering like, would I, do I trade you as a D for a B? Like to take, I don't know, like.
You
You'll do one.
and that's fine.
Yeah, just to have like someone with some experience.
I'll get permission and everything.
Yeah,
But
and
I'm
I
sure
don't
I
need you
can-
on both, just even one, Beth, to kind of give me a little bit of just mentoring.
George has got your
Been there,
back.
done that a lot of times.
We got your back.
A lot of times, both sides.
C&D's great. No, it's great. I have all the respect.
Awesome, so we're good?
Great.
Yeah,
We have a secretary, we have A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
So you guys have an idea who you're going to be negotiating with, and I'll send you guys back a letter and start that process with A. So, thank you, folks.
Sorry, follow up on the Student Advisory Council.
oh, yeah.
No.
And also I'm on the Facilities Subcommittee.
Yeah,
So I am not interested in taking both of those on.
Okay.
But I'd be willing again to relinquish the facilities if there's someone else on the committee who has sounds like some facilities
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, there is.
So,
You're up. Steve, you're up.
Good mention,
That
Don.
more than I do, I have a numbers background, not mechanical.
What would that require?
Every other month, 5:30, before this meeting.
Right before this
Right
meeting.
before this
I have the
meeting.
dates for him.
So I came prepared.
Every other month.
every other month, Steve.
Every other month.
Yep.
Let's go for it, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to
And it's
switch?
stuff you have knowledge on too.
Tristan, Mike is the facilities director.
You know, perfect.
So as
Okay.
soon as I get the numbers and the
All right,
dates, I'll
Steve?
schedule with you.
Steve is on now
The kids.
with me and you.
Yes.
And Dawn is going to go to student advisory.
Yes.
Awesome. Very good teamwork.
John, thanks for being so flexible.
Teamwork.
Make stuff
How'd you get on that?
You can, do you want to take us home? You can take us home.
Now we need regional agreement.
Oh,
Now we need regional agreement.
okay,
So-
Rosemary, you were.
You were the non-voting member, so,
voting member, I really want to make sure that we're doing it right.
so Hillary's on that already. Rosemary was
sorry.
on regional agreement.
Oh, yeah, Hillary's on it already. And it was Hillary, Fred, and you were non-voting.
I was non-voting.
Okay.
I'd like to be a voting member.
So you're nominating yourself?
I am nominating myself.
Second.
Thank you.
Anybody else interested? I guess you're it.
Thank you so much.
So just letting the folks know again, regional agreement, there are 4 voting members. There's a select board member from each town and a school committee member from each town. That's it.
Do you have the members from Whitman and
I don't, as we solidify this, I'm going to send them out and see when we can meet again. The majority of the work is done, but there's some real critical issues that we have to bring up.
Can you, I just have a small request. When you, just on the experience last year, when you reach out to both boards, could you ask them what days? I know that traditionally we went on Mondays, but then that was tricky because people weren't available on Mondays. Could you ask them preemptively, like what days might work? Wednesdays don't work, like aren't going to work
Right.
for us, obviously. But just, you know, and obviously for you and George or whoever is
Yep.
going to be sitting on that, just so before we do the cat and mouse game, we kind of have a plan
Yep.
and we can get going because there are a lot of big.
There's some big
that need
things
to
there.
happen. Yeah.
So I was just going to ask you guys, now that you're there, like, what's a good day? Because we have building committee on Tuesday, we have school committee on Wednesday, but I'll throw that out there to get some dates that are good for you folks.
Because your finance committee and select meeting on
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays are not
Tuesday and Fridays are really the ones that are open.
Oh, not for school teacher, Rosemary. We don't do anything after Wednesday night. Are you kidding?
Fridays aren't going to fly. So I'll send something out. Right, that's true, right?
That's why they got it on Monday.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're good, right? I think we
we're good. I think
touched
it's
everything that we had to do.
I
Yep.
think
So
so.
now, Mr. Marshall, Stephen.
Thank you. So I think everybody has in their packet a cover sheet memo and a few hundred pages worth of documents. So FY22 financial audit, all requested documentation has been provided to the auditors, Clifton Larson Allen. The district is awaiting draft reports from them, but we do believe that that audit, is in the final stages. FY23 financial audit, we are waiting following the receipt of FY22. If we need to make changes within FY22, we can't close the year out and move to 23. So we're kind of in a waiting pattern right now for that. FY24 financial update, there is a report showing our general fund revenue came in $97,000 above budget. Our payroll and expenditure data right now is being analyzed and entered into Munis. It is a lengthy process, but we're almost complete with all payroll being entered, and we're still working through our accounts payable. We need to appropriately allocate those funds, either general fund revolving accounts and grants, and so we're working through all of those. Final reports are expected at some point in October once we get everything entered. And then we will begin working on the DESI end-of-year report. We did request an extension to November 30th. We have been approved for an extension to November 29th. November 29th is the last day that we would be able to submit and still receive our regional transportation on time. So we're going to do everything that we can to hit that November 29th deadline for our end-of-year report submission. FY25 financial update, all of our budgets are loaded in Munis. There were 3 different iterations of the year-to-date budget report that were provided in the packet. So you can see that, you know, that matches, our budget matches what was voted, and we're beginning to enter all of our expenditures for FY25 in Munis, and we will be able to start reporting out. We have not closed out any months yet, so we will need to close July and August, and we have not yet entered any of our revenues in for FY25, but that process is beginning. All journal entries, there are some journal entries that will need to be completed. Right now, we are charging everything to the general fund, and again, we will need to move some expenditures to grants and revolving accounts. The Whitman Middle School project remains on schedule and on budget, and we've also provided some financial information on that in your packet. And with that, I'll take any questions if anybody has them.
Steve, have we gotten anything back from MSBA yet as a reimbursable?
We have not. We were still waiting through the approval process. I received everything back yesterday from Collier's and AI3, the signature process. It's got to go back through. So everything was submitted, and then they do some reports that come back. We have to sign off and then submit all of the hard copies. All of that went to the MSBA yesterday. So we're hoping, they say within 15 days they will process those.
Okay, thank you. And just, I'm forewarning for the FY26 or 26. So we're going to be borrowing for the building project probably 20 some odd $1 million next year. That's going to show up in our budget because it's going to be a borrowing for us. That doesn't mean our budget's going up $20 million. Putting it out there already in September, because I know somebody's going to say that when you see the $20 million increase, that's not the school budget. So I'm going to say that repetitively as we go, because last year, if you remember when we prepared the budget, we did have 2 different numbers because we did borrow. And some folks out there were a little confused. Why are you borrowing? Is Hanson paying for it? Hanson is not paying for anything pertaining to the Whitman Middle School project, but there will be an influx on our budget because we are going to be accountable financially to pay that bill, and it's going to be in our budget. So Steve will go over it, but I'm kind of like laying it out. I'm like teacher right now saying, hey, this is coming. This is the big project. We're chunking it. Because that will be something that you're going to see, but that doesn't mean the school budget went up $20 million next for FY26.
Any questions for Steve?
Yeah, it was a question on path forward in terms of, we know that we borrow for school projects. It gives us access to a lot of that state reimbursement, and Hanson will have to be doing that as well. Our bond rating has a couple of components to it, and our history with some of those components is poor. Some of our investment in the county and also our stabilization. Maybe looking forward in this next budget, just a thought, just sort of looking forward to how much these towns are going to have to borrow, and sort of, you know, a little pain now, less pain later, you know, financially. Because that makes, you know, it makes it hard to plan if you know, the interest rates are shooting up.
Well, we hope as soon as the FY22 comes in, our financial person told us that the bond rating would be better.
But I also think you're right with our E&D. We've talked about this for years. We go to E&D, it affects our bond rating. I mean, we should have $3 million in E&D. We don't. Some of our towns have more than we do, but we've used that to keep up the services. So again, as we talk FY26, and what we're not going to be able to do is use E&D again. I don't anticipate a drop or an increase in E&D. What we do, I'd like to save to increase our bond rating. So.
Vocational school is prepared for their builds, the one that we watch vote for, with making sure they have a solid E&D completely. I think that we by us doing it, we'd save the towns even more money than even being prepared to.
Yes, Dawn?
Yeah, real quick. I think an important number is the one you listed on the memo, the 97,861. Do you expect that is the amount, once you close FY '24, that will be going into E&D?
I can't answer that until we have all of our expenditures loaded into Munis and pull everything together to see what our ending balance
Okay,
would be.
still too early. Okay,
is.
I wasn't sure, because if
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
that would be a very small amount. But on the other hand, I would recognize that and say, we spent what we budgeted
Correct.
and we took care of
Correct.
kids. And we took care of
You
them.
know,
If
I-
in fact, we're not putting like $1 million back
Correct.
in E&D, which had happened historically, and then we.
Correct. I think Stephen's process and John's process, we're not going to be able to dump 500,000 into E&D anymore unless the state comes in with unanticipated revenues moving into at the end of the fiscal year. I just don't see it. So I do think the budgeting piece is important, and we're trying to be as efficient as possible, and so that we're not criticized by towns saying, "Oh, we pay for this, but you dropped $1 million into E&D that you didn't spend."
Right,
So.
right. We're spending it where we said we would, in the budget.
We always do, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Stephen? Thank you, Stephen. Very well done.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Field trip.
Okay, so field trip approval for girls volleyball, boys basketball, girls basketball, and you want to address the question? Because he just sent a letter and said there would
Yeah.
be more follow-up
Yeah.
once they actually have the plans. So is that when we expect to see the signatures
Yeah.
appropriate?
Correct.
Okay. Because Dawn had asked, because there were not appropriate signatures on there, but they just want to get it approved so they can get
Start a plan.
preparation.
Yeah.
And then they'll send the official forms to us. So, yes.
Jeff,
Yep.
I know the answer to this, but I think that it's important that the public knows the answer to this. How are these teams paying for these trips?
It's self-funded, usually for the camps that you saw on the screen. The teams run their camps in the summer and fall, or in winter, during winter break. So it's all self-funded, nothing comes from district money. We don't pay for any of these trips. The Europe trip that you approved last year is all out of pocket from parents or through fundraising. So the school district doesn't pay for kids to go to Hawaii or Turks and Caicos or anything like that.
Why do they need our approval to take school off?
No, because it's a school, any type of out-of-state field trip needs school committee approval, no matter where we go. Even if it's a school-funded trip or not, it's under our guise and under our insurance.
Okay, great
Okay.
question. Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm waiting. Finish one.
I'm good.
Done? Okay.
I'm sure that many of the responsible people who do these trips and handle this, but I wanted to know, these are expensive trips, and to make sure that all students have access to them, is there some component of this that allows for children that, more than an aggregate, that helps children who might not be able to afford?
So these are sports trips, so these are with their teams that they make.
So they just pool it?
Well, yeah, or what do you mean pool it? So it's like,
Money and then pay for it?
And everybody,
Yeah.
nobody has to pay out of pocket.
right.
They
but-
fundraise.
So the Europe trip, or whatever trip that Mr. Kafka has gone on and Mr. Davidson has sponsored, is open to all students. And how they raise that money comes from a variety of sources. It's usually by parent. And that's the big trip that the high school does every year over April, it's always April break, right?
It can be February,
Yeah.
April.
Yeah. So, yeah. But we have encouraged most of some of our athletic teams, like students, all students are involved in student council, that it's a group that is not really selective, and they do multiple, I'm not going to say out-of-state trips, but multiple trips during the course of the year to different conferences and things like that. So,
I'll just add that my kids go to the sports camps, and the half-day boys basketball or co-ed camp, those kids earn every penny with those children, kindergarten to third, fourth grade, to pay for these trips. Like, just,
Dawn, did you have something?
Yeah, along the lines of what Rosemary is saying, in our student travel policy, it does make mention that when an accommodation for a scholarship can be made, that it should. So that's kind of my questioning just around the form. I understand the final details will come back, but if the form was completed almost in entirety, but the policy section was not signed, it just doesn't feel right to me to be able to even sign off in advance so that planning can be done, because an authorization was signed. So I don't know, I would have liked to see the sponsor just sign it, recognizing we do have travel policies, we do have that, so. That's all I was hoping. We could see that signature and at the next meeting, I'm sure it will be there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are we doing these one at a time? or-
No, we'll do all three.
Okay, I motion to approve the girls volleyball, boys basketball, and girls basketball field trips.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Awesome.
Okay. You carry this one, don't you?
And as far as the subcommittee meeting dates, so we talked a little bit about this already. I'm just going to send out a blanket email, so those of you who are on those subcommittees will come up with a time to meet. Policy is sporadic during the course of the year, depending on when we have to put or review some policies. Regional agreement is going to go to both towns as well, and we formalize capital and operations, and I'll send something to you, Dawn, about the student advisory group as soon as we put that together.
And speaking of committees, I still represent the Pilgrim Area Collaborative. We will start the first Thursday at 6 p.m. In October. And that is also when we reorganize and do other things. So we got an update from the executive director for over the summer and the status school, similar to what the superintendent sent us. Everything sounds great so far this year. We'll find out enrollment in different things, and I'll be back to you.
Thanks for doing that, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay. And reminder, our next meeting is October 9th. If you remember, and everybody got a nice hard copy of the calendar, so you can put that on your fridge. I asked Jen to do that for us, so in the past, we've had a little confusion, so I want to make sure we don't have that confusion anymore.
George, give you public comment. Any public comment?
Okay.
Public comment?
Any public comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Thank you, folks.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Great meeting.